that in May 2014, and thank you so much to all of you for attending the CPD. And the CPDs are all going on every month, and it's a good thing that in 2013 this is the 5th CPD, and we are maintaining a ritual of having one CPD a month. Thank you so much to all of you, and thank you to Sajid also for ensuring that we keep on getting good speakers and manage to have this monthly CPDs. And of course Johnson, his always support is there with all this thing. And before I introduce the speaker or introduce that or tell you the topic which you are aware of, first I need to thank all of you for attending this IAQS, this family event on 26th May. It was a very successful event, and all of you who were there, you hopefully must have enjoyed, and definitely we as a board members, we all had a good time interacting with you and enjoying the program that we had, and meeting with so many industry sponsors and professionals. So it was a very professionally organized event, and hopefully you must have enjoyed, and let us have this kind of event every year, so that not even professionally but socially also we can interact with each other and with each other's families, and so we know that each other's spouses, that the kind of bad picture we are otherwise projecting, so you will know that they are not that bad, and they're all good, and so anyway, that was a good event. And now for today's CPD, I think Professor Christopher Abraham is not a new speaker for us. He has been with us, and last time when he did this presentation on one of the management topics, we all felt that we were really little bit tired with our conventional QS CPDs, and that was a kind of breather, and really had a lovely time and had a very good time with this topic. And that's why at that time itself we had requested the professor that please ensure that next time also whenever we request you, please be part of our CPDs. At that time he had assured us, and now today he has fulfilled his promise, and in spite of his busy schedule with so many commitments that he has got. So thank you so much, Professor, once again for being part of our CPD. The topic, the professor who are not aware of Professor, he is the Senior Vice President of SP Jain School of Global Management, and he is the head of the campus there also. And under his leadership from SP Jain, from a small establishment when it started, now it's a huge college, and one of the, I would say one of the best management college of UAE and globally, because of his ranking in top 100. And so being the speaker of that stature with us is a real matter of great pride for us. And the topic also, what he has selected, maybe it's a new topic for us, which is mastering this art and science of decision making. So I'm really not very well versed with this kind of topic. It will be maybe a very good thing to listen, but the decision making on a day-to-day basis, we have to take a lot of decisions, and like one, this on the decision making, one fellow, he said, I'm good in decision making, and I know all the science, and I have science and art of decision making, and he wanted to marry. So he put an ad that I want to marry, and then 3 applications he got, and all 3 were his college friends. So they said, we know you, and we want to marry you because we really miss, we used to like you in the college. And this fellow, he said, how to select one of them. So he said, okay, I want to test you that who likes me more, and for that, I'll give you 10,000 rupees to each of you, or 10,000 dirhams, and you show me in a week's time that what you can do with this 10,000 dirhams, and based on that, I will judge who likes me the most, and based on that, I will take a decision with this art and science of this decision making. So one lady, what she did that she went to a parlor, had a manicure, pedicure, and liposuction, and whatever she could do, and to make her more beautiful. And then she came back to this guy, see, I have done so much for you, I have become like so good looking. So this all I have done for you because I like you and want to marry you. Other lady, what she did with the 10,000, she went to this one a mall, and got this fellow iPhone, a laptop, a computer, because he knew that he belongs to like a lot of electronics. And then he came to this guy, see, but 10,000 I bought everything what you are normally, what you dream, and that's why that shows my height of likeness for you. And this third lady, what she did that she went to a stock market, invested the money, earned but that money back, gave her 10,000 back, and 10,000 what she earned, she reinvested in the stock market, and then she told, see, I have really made a good future for you, and I can be really very, very good wife for you. Now this fellow, was really confused that whom to marry. Now all his, science of decision making and all, he was he was not able to put into use. So finally he decided that he will marry the girl who has the best figure, and then finally he decided and married the girl with the best figure. So like all his, basis of decision making just went waste in 1 minute, and he had to completely change the decision of his basis of his decision, because he realized that he did not have the master this art of decision making. And then somebody like people have been asking me that from your house we never hear any loud voices, fight between your wife and you never fight, like, or you have no difference of opinion on any of the decision making. I said no, in our house this is clear distinction who does what. Like all major decisions I take in my house. Decisions like Israel and Palestine, whether they should sign an agreement, or what should be India's foreign policy on China, or Syria, whether the government should dissolve because of ongoing violence. All opinions I express and my wife never interferes. And all small decisions, like our kids should go to which school, which flat we should buy, which car we should buy, which holidays, that my wife takes some small decision and never interferes. So now everybody has own style of science and of decision making, but I think that is all sort of ad hoc kind of science what we are doing, and organized, structured science of decision making. That is what doctor is going to, professor is going to tell us. So I'll just say a few words about credentials of professor, and that gives us not only to praise him for that, but just to give encouragement to all of us that. That in a small career span, what a person can do to elevate himself to the level where professor is today. So Professor Christopher Abraham is a permanent resident of Canada and holds 3 postgraduate qualifications in business administration, in marketing, human resource management, and administrative law, labor and administrative law. And he has a career span of 24 years in management consultancy, marketing, executive development and management education. Currently, as we mentioned, that he is the senior vice president and head of Dubai campus at SP Jain School, and which is one of the world's top 100 ranked business schools. And prior to this, professor has been working with the Philadelphia Consulting Group, Modi Xerox, TNT Worldwide, and such well-known companies. Also, he has been a visiting professor to University of Wollongong, XLRI, and Higher College of Technology, TQM College, University of British Columbia, and such elite universities in UAE and other parts of the world. And also he has been, his specialization teaching includes corporate strategy, marketing management and organizational behavior. And also professor has presented many papers in international conferences and workshops, and he has been judged Outstanding Professor of the Year award also by Junior Chamber International. And also, as you can make out that he has been adjudged, he deserves to be adjudged best faculty, which he was adjudged best faculty many times during his career in his teaching. So please give a big round of applause.
Thank you, Mr. Jitendra. At the outset, let me first thank the organizers, Mr. Durai, Mr. Jitendra, and the rest of the team for giving me a chance to be part of this elite forum. Before I go on, let me make a very solemn promise. I'm not going to give you any decision-making strategies to choose your life partners. And I'm sure we all know how to do that better. But what I'm going to do with you for the next, how long can I go? 7 to 1 hour? So for the next 60 minutes or so, what we're going to do is, it's very tough, very challenging for a professor to keep a group of working professionals awake after 7 o'clock. Okay, we run an executive MBA program where we have about 350 to 400 of similar kind of people like you. And one of the biggest challenges we face every evening is, how do we keep them awake? And we don't blame you guys. You have had a tough day during the day. And then when you come sitting in the evening and somebody rambles on, giving you all kinds of wonders and theories, you're saying, my God, this is too much. So I promise you I'm not going to do that. And what I'm going to do, to ensure that you keep awake, you have to talk to me. That's the only way I can ensure that you keep okay. So in between, like any good professor, I'll ask you a lot of questions, and I would like you to, like good students, answer them. Okay, are you ready? Yes. Only very few people are saying, are you ready?
Yes.
Fantastic. I want to show you a small picture. Okay, the picture has no real meaning. I want you to just react to that picture. So don't be looking for the right, wrong answers. One small writer, if you're somebody who's qualified, who's already seen the picture before, you're out of this game. You'll have to keep quiet. But if you haven't seen the picture, watch it carefully for 30 seconds and then we will continue. Just watch that. Okay, 30 seconds. And then I will ask you questions. Ready? Okay, I'm gonna point. Anybody wants to volunteer? No volunteer. Then I'll have to start asking. Sir, the last gentleman sitting in the last row. Sir, what do you see there? That's you, sir. Yes. Yes. What do you see there? No right, wrong answer. So I'm just asking a very simple question. What do you see there?
I see romance in a long location.
A romance in the long location. Could you go a little more elaborate? Is it a husband and wife, secret lovers, boyfriend, girlfriend?
The face reflection shows that it is less of excitement, so I will accept it is wife and husband.
Okay, wife and husband, experience speaking. Now we'll have somebody from there. So what do you see?
I see a boy sitting with his dog.
A boy sitting with his doll. Interesting. What do you see, sir? Boy sitting with? Because he... Okay. Madam, what do you see? Now we've got all kinds of it. Please, sir.
Husband and wife.
Husband and wife. What do you think they're doing?
There is some disagreement. Between
Some disagreement, so he's putting his hand over her shoulder and trying to console. Anybody else? Sir?
I think they are fed up with their life and their life is thrown.
Oh my God! They're fed up with their life and they're planning to drown. No. The lady there. Madam, yeah, we have a few ladies here, so let's get active participation from our... Please sit down, madam. Sit and just say what you see there. So some of them have seen a doll, some of them have seen a husband and wife, some of them have seen their friends. What else?
Maybe consoling.
Who are they? Father, daughter,
Girlfriend and boyfriend.
girlfriend, wife. So we have different variations here. Okay? We just saw something, somebody saying it's a doll. Dog? Okay, somebody says a dog. Now look at this. We are all intelligent people. We are very smart, intelligent people. But very often, and we are not wrong. Suppose I had not shown you this picture and I had asked each one of you to write a nice 100-word essay tomorrow for submission. Each one of you will write beautiful essays about what you saw. How to drown yourself, how to console, okay, all kinds of things. And you're not to be blamed. Please don't mistake, you're not to be blamed. Because what was happening is that you made sense, and that's most important first lesson. You made sense of what you saw, based on which you made decisions. Are you with me? Yes. You made sense of that. To you, that made perfect sense. Whether it was a husband and wife, whether it was a girlfriend, boyfriend, whether it was a man and a dog, that's what you saw, and that is what is your reality. And many times when we take our decisions are based on what we see and not what is real. Right? And think about it for a moment. September 2008, nobody can forget that. One of the greatest financial crises that rocked the world. Do a little more deeper analysis. Now, normally crisis is supposed to be created by a bunch of idiots, bunch of people who had no clue about what they were doing, right? Foolish people. But who created the financial crisis? Award-winning economists, quantitative giants. Wall Street had a nice term for them, quants. Are you with me? So there was something going wrong somewhere. Even the most intelligent people, whether it was the choice of making a life partner, or whether it was choosing, the right decision every day, day in, day out, the mere fact that you've decided to come here, had something going on in your brain. So for the next, few minutes, we're going to spend some time to see what is it that makes us do this. Which circle, blue circle, is larger? Now people are very alert. Which one? So this one is larger? Okay, somebody says that one is larger. So
Both are same.
both are same. How many of you say this one is larger? Show of hands. A lot of people are saying that one is larger. How many of you say both are same? Okay, good. So we have almost a 50-50 divided house. The truth is both the same. Right? Okay, the eye is playing dirty tricks on us. And we thought we were very intelligent people. Okay, my purpose is not to prove that we aren't as intelligent, but to prove the ramifications of how human thinking, human decision making, human understanding changes. Look at another one. A and B. Are they similar? Are they different? Now we are getting very alert. I don't want to answer all these funny questions. A or B? Are they similar? Very simple question. And I'll ask questions to people who haven't answered so far. Yes. Sir, are they similar? Are they different? Different. How many of you say different? A lot of us say different. How many of you say similar? Some of you are simply saying, okay, it has to be one of the other. No problem. Let us see. When you put it in context, this is the reality. I have not done anything. All I have done is I have put it in perspective. Ladies and gentlemen, the message that I am trying to convey is that we try to make sense of things around us based on which we make our decisions. Our decisions are based on our perceptions. Our perceptions relate to our understanding relates to our thought process, and our thought process makes us decide. We think we are rational. We think. We claim ourselves. That's why we say, in small biological classes, you learn man is the only rational animal. But the irony is that even the rational part is still not. The last part is very true. We are an animal. We are a social animal. Whether we are rational or not, we'll see that now as we see here. Perceptions and decision making. Let me give you a couple of stories from the corporate world which will probably prove this. All of us know IBM, right? IBM, everybody knows it. What is IBM? The world's largest, the world's biggest, the world's pioneer as far as information technology is concerned. They were, they are, and they will continue to be. And IBM did something remarkable. During the 1980s, their marketing team identified a particular segment called the SOHO segment. SOHO segment was a small office, home office segment. And please remember, you have to forget the days of your digital iPads and iMacs and tabletops and desktops and whatever tops. Okay? You have to go back in time when the only computers available were mainframes and MIDIs. Okay? So even desktops were not there. During that time, IBM had the vision and the futuristic outlook to identify two segments, the small office segment, SME segment, and the home office segment. And they said, we need to create a unique product for this particular segment. Remarkable, visionary, pioneering, and then they put a super team on the job. Team came back within 10 months. They were given a deadline of 1 year. They came back within 10 months to create what you and I today know as the personal computer. So IBM was a pioneer as far as that particular market category, product category was concerned. So far so good. They identified the market segment. They got the right team in place. So the decision to identify the market, super. They identified to identify the right people to do the job, even super. And to give them a deadline and give them a focus, give them a vision to do what they have to do, even more super. And then the product was launched. It virtually revolutionized computing. Where is IBM PCs today? Or where are IBM PCs today? Tell me, sir. Who has IBM PC? Who owns IBM PCs? A company in China called Lenovo has taken over IBM PCs a few years back. So what went wrong in between? In this process of identifying a super category in the market and a super product like a personal computer, IBM did to use an Indian metaphor, two Himalayan blunders in decision making. What do you think they did? Which finally resulted in them reluctantly selling off their PC division. Two remarkable blunders, unbelievable. One blunder was to sell the heart of the computer. Okay, the heart of the computer is the motherboard, the hardware. And please remember, when they sold it to a 6-man small company called Intel, Intel was only 6 men when it was formed, and when IBM sold the proprietary rights to offer the hardware into IBM PCs, IBM was then the world's largest manufacturer of motherboards. Okay, and for whatever reason, only the good Lord knows that they actually outsourced the motherboard to Intel, and Intel went on to become as big as IBM. So the heart was gone. Then they also sold the soul of the computer to another small upstart company run by two college dropouts. They hoodwinked IBM into buying their software, which itself they had borrowed from somebody else. It wasn't their original software. Two guys called Bill Gates and Paul Allen. Okay, they went on to create another big company called Microsoft. Right? So you imagine when you make one wrong decision, two big companies come in the process. Are you with me? Right. Second one is about Steve Jobs. We all know Steve Jobs, the late Steve Jobs, founder, legendary scientist, inventor, pioneer, whatever. Steve Jobs founded Apple. No big deal. And Apple was giving a run for the money for the computer technology industry. It was doing remarkably well. And Steve Jobs decided to do something wonderful. Being the founder of the company, he said, I need to bring in some element of stability to the company. So let me do the thinking part. I'll get a CEO. So he went on a CEO hunt to decide to identify the best person who can take up the CEO position. While this was happening, something interesting was happening in the soft drinks market. Pepsi Cola versus Coca-Cola. And before this incident took place, which I will come back to you in a minute, Coca-Cola had a market share of 80% and Pepsi Cola had a market share of 12%. And they were number one and number two. And one fellow came in between in the 1980s and did something remarkable. Nothing great in terms of the product or branding or anything. All he did was change some words. So he said PepsiCo is the choice of the new generation. And in one single stroke, he said all the other fellows drinking Coca-Cola are old fellows. Okay. And as a result, the market share from 12 went on to become a very reasonable 40, 50. So in fact, currently, the difference between Coke and Pepsi is about 12%. Remarkable story. And this guy, his name is called John Scully. He's a legendary now business guru. And Steve Jobs is now hunting for a top-notch CEO. Who else? But John Scully, who has now revolutionized the soft drinks industry. So he picks up the phone and the dialogue goes exactly the way I'm narrating. He says, Steve, this is John, this is Steve from Apple Computers. How long would you like to sell sugared water when I would like to give you a chance to change the world? And the rest, as the cliche goes, is history. John Scully jumps overboard. He becomes CEO of Apple Computers. Now, this must be the most formidable team. Look at it. Steve Jobs' imagination, his ingenuity, and John Scully's remarkable strategic brains. 18 months later, emergency general body meeting is called by who? By John Scully. And John Scully decides with the board members that Steve Jobs should be kicked out of the company. You got what I said? Not the other way around. Okay, the owner of the company gets kicked out. That really happened. All what I'm narrating is all real stories, real. Okay, now what's happening here? Steve Jobs' decision to hire a good CEO was a remarkable thought. His decision to hire John Scully, highly questionable. After a few months, John Scully was thrown out. That's a different issue. And then Steve Jobs came back, Avatar 2, when he came back after creating Next Computers, what was that, animation, Pixar, so on and so forth. The story is that we all make decisions. Whether we are big companies, whether we are intelligent people, we all make decisions. Many times they go wrong. Fine. So that's why this guy, he's a professor from Duke University. He was earlier with MIT, now he's with Duke University, a gentleman called Dan Ariely. And Dan Ariely proved through a series of experiments that we are predictably irrational. I'll share some of these secrets, so some of my presentations will be based on that. Bertrand Russell, one of the world's foremost philosophers, said this. It has been said that man is a rational animal. All my life I've been searching for evidence which could support this. We're still searching around for the rational animal. Conventional economic theories, classical economic theories tell us that we are very smart, intelligent people. And we will see in the process, are we really that smart? Okay? It says we are highly rational. Let me ask you a simple question. Okay, and I want you to answer. Let us assume most of you are making about, I'm just using a figure so don't mistake me. Let's say you're all making about 25,000 dirhams per month. Okay? And suddenly we come back and tell you, guys, there's a fabulous offer of 40,000 per month. Okay? Dirhams per month. Sorry. Okay, dollars per month or dirhams, whatever. Per month. Honest answer. Let us assume most of you are making about, I'm just using a figure so don't mistake me. let's say you're all making about 25,000 dirhams per month, okay? And suddenly we come back and tell you, guys, there's a fabulous offer of 40,000 per month, okay? Dirhams per month, sorry, okay, dollars per month or dirhams, whatever, per month. Honest enough, how many of you will take this offer? We are currently drawing 25,000, okay? And we have an offer for $40,000. How many of us will take this offer? Sure. It's a good offer. Let me be very honest. It's a straightforward offer. There's no gimmick there. It is a genuine offer, not like some of the gimmicks that are going around. Okay, it's a real offer. 40,000 bucks makes rational sense. I'm getting 25,000. Now I'm giving you 40,000. Fantastic. Let's now work out the visa formalities. When can I resign? When will the new visa come? All that fantastic. Okay. Now I'm going to come with another option. Okay. I've got $50,000. Now 2 days later we say, friends, I've got some more good news for you. Already I shared with you the 40,001. Now I've got a 50,000. How many of us want to switch? Be honest, come on. I told you, you have to interact, otherwise you'll sleep. And I can't afford to have sleeping classes. We have to interact, okay? So a lot of us would jump to it because definitely 50 is more than 40. Any little child will tell you that. There's only one rider. Okay. Now listen very carefully. In the 40,000 offer, you will be the highest paid. Okay? In the 40,000 offer, you'll be the highest paid in the employee, in the company. Okay? In the 50,000 offer, you'll be the lowest paid in the company. Listen carefully. Now tell me, honestly tell me, how many of you will take the 40,000? How many of you will take the 50,000? Okay? Some of us. But if you see a large majority will opt for the 40,000. Technically it's an irrational decision. Because 40,000 is low, we all work for money. But something is happening inside our mind which is saying, I don't want to be the lowest paid there. Which means all the other blokes must be getting more. Are you with me? That's what it is. All our decisions are based on that. Whether we buy a car, whether we buy a house, whether we put our children in a particular school, the decisions are a compromise of relativity. It's not what I want. It's what I want in comparison to what the other fellow has. That's the problem with a lot of us. My cousin is doing this, my uncle is doing that, my big brother is doing this, my small brother is getting more, and that worries us. And that's a big problem for a lot of us with our unhappiness syndrome. That's a separate topic, which will go some other day. So traditional economic theory says we are rational, we are not. Rational theory should say that 50 is better than 40. I don't care, in Tamil they have a nice word. Pay me 40, call me 30. Okay, it doesn't matter. But unfortunately we don't think that. We think this is more dignified. I'm the big guy there. And everybody else gets lower than me. In other words, our intelligence is skewed to various other factors that determine what we should decide. So reasoning, decision making and behavior is more like a messy game of snakes and ladders. We all play snakes and ladders, right? No clear path, highly emotional and predictably irrational. I'm going to shock you with a statistic. Believe me, and this is proved by science, this is proved by research. We all think we are smart. But you know what? We are irrational. We are not profit maximizing Homo economics after all. And you know what happens? All these have been proved. These are the books that actually validate that we are very, very irrational. And let us look at, this is the disturbing part. Unconscious mind controls 95% of our behavior. Okay, that's a shocking news, and that's brain science. Okay, so I'm not giving you any kind of statistics to scare you. That's from the frontiers of neuroscience. Which means only 5% is all that thinking, rational brain doing. 95% of the decisions are subconscious, unconscious, deep down, and all those decisions are triggered by 100 other things that actually make us do. I'm going to get into a little bit of neuroscience. I will not make it tough and complicated, very simple stuff. Visualize the brain in 3 parts. Okay, there are 3 parts to all our brain. This is neuroscience. Okay, basic elementary neuroscience. And why this happens? Why is this kind of decision making taking place? Because deep within each one of our brains, we have these 3 kinds of characteristics. One is a lizard brain, which is called the reptilian brain. And the reptilian brain, in its evolutionary process, was always about survival. It bothered about survival. in the savannas, in the jungles, in the wilderness, it was all about surviving. How do I survive the next day? Because it had too many dangers. So it was always triggered, primed towards survival. And it used to focus on the 4 fours, as we used to call it. In order to survive, you need food. In order to survive, you need to have fear. In order to survive, you need to fly, that is, run away. And in order to survive, you need to fornicate, which is basically procreation. So these were the 4 focused on survival, flight, fright, freeze, sex, food, and events may trigger emotional eating. So that's your basic thing. So that is coming out. Saying they will laugh at me. You're always worried. Fear. Fear of psychosis, fear of others laughing at us, fear of criticism, fear of failure, fear of success. All kinds of fears that come. That's your reptilian brain. Then there's the second level of our brain, which is the emotional brain. And this is where there's a small almond-sized organ in the brain, backside, called the amygdala. So when you feel warm and mushy when you are with your loved one, what is happening is that the amygdala is reacting. Because it relates to emotions, it relates to memory, it relates to habits, okay? The mammalian brain, as we call it. So you have the reptilian brain, the mammalian brain, and these are not separate brains. These are all part of the same brain, but at different levels. So we have an emotional brain. And this is where intuition lies, tacit knowledge. It's not learned, it's intuitive, okay? We don't teach a child to smile, it's intuitive, it's hardwired into his biological system. He smiles at us, and he recognizes strangers, he recognizes mama and papa, and he's got that ability to do it because of the intuitive, tacit knowledge. And this is where decisions really happen. At the emotional level is where most of these decisions take place. We think we are rational, but most of our decisions are emotional. Which is why later we regret, why the hell did I do it? Give me a simple clue. How many of you drive cars? Lots of you drive cars. Think about, go back to the time when you wanted to purchase your car, okay? You had done your research, all the rational part, you have done your analysis, you've done your comparisons, and then you honed in on a particular model. I'm just going to use loosely one particular model, say Nissan, okay, Altima. I'm just using that as an example. Okay, anybody having Altimas? Some of you? Okay. I'm just using that, so it could be anybody's car. You can use your car as an example. The moment you've decided on that, what happened? Probably the cars that you see, every third car that you see is an Altima. Was it just there by coincidence that all the Altimas of the world just came across? No, it was a tacit knowledge that ensured that you were focusing on what you need to focus. We all go through this. Okay, our brains are primed in certain ways based on what we do. What we do, the context, all these things determine how we decide what we decide. And the context determines it. Our perceptions are completely wrong. There was an experiment done, one of the experiments done by Dan Ariely was a fascinating one. He had 2, bottles of wine. Both had normal, ordinary wine inside. Okay? On one he labeled it as $9. On the other he labeled it as $90. And then gave it to a bunch of intelligent MBA students at MIT. MIT is supposed to be one of the lofted portals of management education in the world. So he told them, okay guys, you try the $9 one, you try the $90 one, tell me which tastes better. Which do you think tastes better? The $99 one? The stuff inside was exactly the same, but your brain got primed by that $99. How many times? This is not only for MIT MBA students, as you and me. That's what the shopkeepers do. That's what the retail guys do. Okay, Carrefour will put on big advertisement. Okay, it will say shop and save. And you are very smart, you think you're very intelligent. So you take that colored paper, 4 pages, tuck it under your armpit, weave through all the traffic, spend about 50 dirhams on petrol, and then find a difficult way to get the parking. You go there, and then you start shopping. Initially, first few, aisles will be very smart. So looking at that, then going to the aisle, looking at that, going to that. I want you to check the shopping cart when you go towards the final, when you're going for checkout. Half the items there are not on your newspaper. It's called bait and switch. They've already baited you into the environment and they have switched your thinking process. You think they are fools to give you all 20 dirham item for 2 dirham? How will they run the business? Only with idiots like you and me. That's the way it works. It's baiting and switching. So the point is that our emotions make a lot of decisions. How many times have we made decisions on the spur of the moment? I'll give you another shocker. The next time when you go to a supermarket or hypermarket, you will find your legs moving towards the bakery. Why is it moving towards the bakery? Because the smell is coming. And the smell says it is live bread which is being. It is simulated smell actually. It is not real. In most cases it's not freshly baked, oven baked bread or cake. But they have simulated it so that your nostrils are sensitized and then your emotions take over and then you go eat. You also feel happy. I've eaten fresh bread. Think about it. Think about a decision making. And then there is a third level of our brain, which is the logical, rational brain. That's where the thinking comes across. Abstract thought, logic, human brain reasons and rationalizes. But look at the research. It doesn't really make the decisions. It knows a lot of logic. It knew from 2005 economists were telling the bubble is going to burst. It cannot go on like this. What goes up has to come down. Laws of science. It can't go on like that. We were all thinking, no, it's going to happen elsewhere, not here. We were all part of it. Construction industry, investors, we all did that. It will happen elsewhere. We are blinded to it because what is happening is that the brain rationalizes, but the emotion takes over and says, you know, the other fellow already invested 2. You don't invest even 1 year, idiot. And you have to. So, backward rationalization adopts a theory and seeks to support and defend. Okay, and some of the biases we're going to see now. And that is where the problem is. So, deep down, instinctive reptilian brain. Second level, emotional brain. And top is the conscious reasoning brain. And this is where 95% of the stuff happens. Tip of the iceberg is only 5%. Okay, and this is real. This is the truth. It's hard to digest, but true. You know the answer to this. I don't need to explain. It's only the emotional brain that takes over most of the time. I'm not saying we're not rational. That's not my intention, but science proves it. You see how they do it. So you might ask, how do we come out with all these fascinating findings? Neuroscience uses the most advanced technologies like functional magnetic resonance imaging, fMRI to be short. And then it actually maps what's happening inside our brain. So actually they can map our thoughts, they can map our feelings, they can map our emotions, and that's how they've come to the conclusion that emotions play an extremely critical process. Now broadly you could classify your decision-making style in these 4 forms. Analytical, where the tolerance for ambiguity is very high. You need all the data. That's what most of you do. Your quantitative analysis, your reports, your projects, they're all analytical. Then, if you have tolerance for ambiguity, which is low, which means you don't mind having some kind of, let's say, frivolous details, then a directive style would be more appropriate. If your way of thinking is rational, then it's either analytical or direct. But if it is emotional, intuitive, then it's conceptual or behavioral. Again, if the tolerance for ambiguity is high, then it's conceptual. That's where people like Steve Jobs, people like Bill Gates dream what the future of the technology, future of the industry is likely to be. The other one, when you don't have the tolerance for ambiguity, then it becomes behavioral, it becomes an emotional decision. Now let us see how this manifests in our day-to-day life. Don't worry about the concepts, don't worry about the terminologies. The idea is not to scare you with the terminologies. We all have gone through this. When we got a good mark in a particular subject, what did we say? You know what? I did well, I studied hard. That's why I got it. Look at the opposite. We got low marks. What do we say? Professor was tough, question papers are out of question, and lousy. All the other reasons why. So we will take credit when things go right, and we will blame others when things go wrong. That's the attribution error. So we will attribute credits to us and attribute discredits to others. We do this all the time. Okay, so whether it is inside the examination or whether it is performance appraisal, whether it is, so these biases creep. They come into, so they underestimate external factors, overestimate its situation. So, well, how do they say? It's because of the external factors. Fine. Halo effect. We look at one particular characteristics and make a judgment about a person. Appearances are extremely deceptive. Way back in my career, I used to do project consultants for, many of you from South India can relate to this example. project consultants. So I was sitting there one evening, we deal with these multi-million, multi-lakh, multi-crore projects. So here's this guy around 6 o'clock when the office is about to be closed. He walks inside, traditionally dressed, with a dhoti and a nice white shirt. And he comes across, I'm saying, who's this guy? So maybe he's come to sell something. So he talks to me in the local language and says, you have any projects? I mean, I couldn't say no. So I said, yeah, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So we went up to 130 lakhs, 40 lakhs. I was wasting time. I thought, I'm wasting time. Then he said, anything bigger than this? I said, what am I doing? I have to go home and this fellow is irritating. I can't say no to him. I can't chase him out. There's 40, 50 lakhs. No, anything beyond that. Then in those days, we had the biggest projects over 1.6 crores. So I reluctantly showed that and he said, how long will it take to put the project? Why is this guy asking all these questions? I said, it will take about 6 to 8 months. He said, I have a land here and it was between Coimbatore and Erode. So I have a land there and I want to buy it. And I said, okay, we can put it, and I wanted to close it. And then he said, how much advance I need to give? I said, you have to start off, you have to sign a contract, it's big, the process, and you have to pay 10%. And then he did something strange, South Indians would relate to it. He lifted his dhoti, and deep down he had this nice underwear where he had a huge pocket where it was loaded with wads of money. And he took out money, it must have been a few lakhs. I was scared. I was completely flummoxed. I had no clue, because what was happening is I had a halo effect. I had made a wrong judgment, and that man went on to become an extremely successful entrepreneur. And I would have missed it. I mean, thanks to what God's grace, I would say, that I was able to hold him back. Otherwise, I would have chased him out. I would not have even entertained. Something in me told that I should not do that. Maybe it was my upbringing or whatever, I don't know. Otherwise, I was very reluctant to talk to him. I was not at all interested. But that's the halo effect. It happens to all of us. We make prejudgments, preconceived opinions about people. What did we do there? We saw 30 seconds of somebody, some picture, we said it's man, boyfriend, girlfriend, planning to divorce, planning to die, all those things. Halo effect. Looking at one particular thing, making a decision. Contrast effect. This is something which we will face in our interviews. We have 10 fellows lined up for interview. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. 6 was a superstar. Now problem for 7, 8, 9. Because you are comparing all the other fellows now with 6. They may be really good, but you lose them because you are comparing them with the contrast effect. So these are some of those errors that will keep coming in our decision making day in and day out. Projection. We are looking for something that can be similar to us. Okay, you may be a cricket buff. Now none of us will become cricket buffs after all the nonsense that's happened. But let's presume in those good old days when cricket was cricket, not a racket. Okay, in those days, let's say we are a cricket buff. And we are looking for somebody. That fellow, if he is a smart fellow, will have a small logo with a cricket bat there. That's it, he already got the job. He'll get an increment also when he starts. Because what is done is we have projected our interest on that person. Many times we take judgments based on that. You like the color, you like the region from where. In India we have a strange problem. We have regions, different regions, and we have favorites towards certain regions. Okay, this person, he must be like this. And then we form judgments. And then he'll be the first fellow to establish it. Stereotype. Again, what we do, race, gender, religion, color, creed, all these things come in to cloud our judgment. And these are real, these are genuine, these happen. And selective perception. How many of you were there in the last session? Last one week. You remember the monkey story? The gorilla? That is selective perception. We see what we want to see. I wish I had showed it now. A lot of people haven't seen it. We could ask the others to keep quiet and show it. But anyway, the idea is this. That we see what we want to see. We don't see the other things, and we call it willful blindness. Willful blindness, okay? So where do these decision-making things apply in organizations? I want to use it from a corporate perspective. As I said, you can apply the same principles in any employment interview. You just saw this. Okay, we make our judgments based on, and many times I wonder, how did we select this fellow? After 6 months, he was like that rock star when he came in and floored us. And not even one fellow, 3 of us sitting there all nodding each other and saying, he must be God's gift to our organization. And then 6 months later we are trying all sorts of methods to throw him at the first opportunity. Interview. Okay, then performance expert. This is a beautiful one. Okay, this I want you to take it with the right spirit, because this will really change. This is the power of belief. Later on I'll again go back to this, but I'd like to stress on. Now he looked at the flippant side of man and he said, oh my God, I didn't know I was so dumb. But there are certain things which you could do to actually make some remarkable stuff. This is what is called the power of belief. Okay, and this is the key word there, Pygmalion. Pygmalion says, you got a team of 5 people, you got a team of 6 people. What is your normal opinion about them? Okay, these fellows are there and there's nothing great to speak about. And they will always be that. If you go and tell your child you're an idiot, you go on telling the child you're an idiot, child will write and give it, become an idiot. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. At the same time, an ordinary child, you keep telling the child, you are deemed, you are destined for greatness. And this is proof, this is actually science. So I'm not giving some nice motivational story and all here. This is science, and I'll prove the science behind it. You keep repeating, reiterating the power of belief, that you believe that you can do remarkable things. People will come out with things that is unbelievable. So this fellow who was in the 4th grade was thrown out of the class. The class teacher called the mother and said, he is no good, he cannot be in class because he is less than average. And if we keep him, he'll pull down the averages of the class. So mother, she tried talking to him, any other mother, very concerned mother, she said, is there any way you can accommodate him? No, he is much below average, idiot. He's an idiot category, we cannot use him. Mother takes him and tells him, son, there is something wrong with the teacher. She hasn't identified the genius in you. Okay? You are a genius, you're very different, you're outstanding, you're extraordinary. The school cannot teach you, I will take the responsibility to teach you. This is real. And then she groomed him, he got homeschooling as we call it. Then he went into private examinations during his high school and all that. Long story short, he went on to create a Guinness Book of World Records. All of us know this guy, Thomas Alva Edison, the world's greatest inventor. Right? Power of belief. If his mom had condemned him as another idiot, he would go on to become we wouldn't have a Thomas Alva Edison to speak about in this CPD. We wouldn't have that. But what has happened is that the power of belief. I'll give you the brain science behind it, and that will fascinate you. Where they found this story is a Greek story. It's a Greek mythology where the fellow fell in love. He was a sculptor who sculpted his, it was so beautiful that he wanted that to become real. So the gods, from it, the Greek story, Greek mythology, gods felt sad. They said, okay, let's give it to him. They actually gave life to it. So the Pygmalion, the statue that he created became live. That's the power of belief. Now, actually what happens is the brain plays this trick on you. Okay? Now, there are a number of examples. I'll give you a couple. This was World War II, and that's when they really discovered it. World War II, America is in the war, and now the American doctors, nurses, paramedical staff have all been deputed to the war fields of Germany. And as they are going around, there are a lot of people injured and wounded, and they are writhing in pain, they are bleeding, pain, is so exaggerated. And then the doctor and the nurse are going around giving shots of morphine. Morphine is a painkiller. It's a medical painkiller. So they're going around giving painkillers. Fellow is writhing in pain, give him the painkiller. He feels relief. Go on doing that. And as they're going on in this mission of mercy, they suddenly realize they run out of painkillers. God, no more painkillers. And the doctor is looking at the nurse is looking at the doctor. They don't know what to do. The nurse is a smart lady, much more intelligent than the doctor. So she sees a lot of saline solutions are there. Normal glucose water. She takes one shot of that injection, gives it to the fellow. That fellow is happy, he's relieved. Are you with me? Did you get what I said?
Yes.
It was the fake medicine that was given, but the relief was as good as the real medicine. Today, medical science has a term for it. I want you to remember it. It's called the placebo. Okay, it's called the placebo effect. And today, any medical drug that you and I have to buy on the medical counter would have to go through what is called a placebo trial. A placebo trial is if a company is coming out with a cancer drug, it will be given, the real drug will be given to 100 people. The fake drug looking exactly like the similar drug will be given to 100 people. They will see the difference in the curative process of the real one and the fake one. And if the gap is wide enough, that's when the real drug is allowed to be marketed. Today it's medical science, okay, placebo effect. What it tells us is, if you start believing something, it starts manifesting. And if you believe, that's why Henry Ford Sr. said very beautifully, he said, if you think you can, and if you think you can't, you're right. Not what I said. Yeah, that's what it is. It's the power of your belief. See, some of us have that. I think I have a headache. You start thinking you have a headache, trust me, you will have a headache. Because the brain is playing tricks on us, and that's why doctors tell us 80 to 85% of our diseases are psychosomatic. The mind playing tricks on the body. So if you know how to control your brain, I'll give you some techniques by the end of the session, and then you can actually change the destiny of your thought process. Performance evaluations, this is serious stuff, okay? We have problems there. I'm actually running out of time. I haven't even started my session. Anyway, performance evaluation. Performance evaluation, that's the time when you want to hit back at the fellow. We are looking at how many times he said good morning to us, good evening to us. If all those are counting all that, 4 times in the week he did. Now performance, I will see what I do. When the performance appraisal comes, you give it to him right royally at the back. I feel happy about it. Now I got, there's a term for it. Psychologists call it, it's a dirty game, don't play this and don't quote me. But I'm reminding you that many of us may be victims of this game or we would have played it. Any guesses? The game is called Now I Got You, You Son of a Bitch. After hitting him at the back, you now feel happy about it. Your brain feels very happy, contented that you've taken even because all the good mornings, good evenings he did tell you, now I have got it. Performance evaluation. Anyway, there are methods by which this can be minimized. Just to give you quick tips, as far as recruitment is concerned, we have assessment centers, multiple levels of recruitment, multiple people deciding, multiple criteria for deciding what is to be the right person, and that can minimize the element of problems. Similarly, when it comes to performance appraisal, in order to avoid niggy sobs and stuff like that, we need to have 360-degree appraisals. We can have dual ratings, multiple ratings. In fact, many progressive companies have now gone to the other extent of the manager evaluating the subordinates and the subordinates evaluating the managers for both of their performance. So, by which you can actually minimize. So, rather than being judgmental, we can actually be performance oriented. Okay, here's an interesting problem. Okay, question time again. Listen to the story. Okay, there's a train that's coming at breakneck speed. Okay, and you have one green line which is unused. Okay, this is an unused track. And then you have the blue track. Don't only raise your hands. Only all of us here, all your people. Okay, and I'm not going to tell anybody outside, so don't worry. How many of us will be bold? Where I want a message coming out. So many of us are saying, and if you ask them the reason behind it, very simple math, right? How many of you will send it on the blue track? Again, some of us are saying, I'm not part of this game. Because out of 50 people sitting here, only 10 hands have raised so far. So somewhere the math is going on. Anyway, the logic says, more people would have opted for this. Why? One fellow versus, simple logic, right? One fellow versus 4 fellows. We are killing one man rather than, and saving, and we also feel happy about it. 4 fellows we have saved in the process. Now look at other implications. I told you this is an unused track. Now there may be people sitting inside here. Okay? So you killed one fellow and you put 100 fellows in jeopardy now. You're getting where I'm coming at. Second, you never know why these fellows are standing there. Okay? It's a very tricky decision, but we have to take a decision. We take something, we compromise. We say, okay, it's better to kill one fellow than kill 4 fellows. Now variation of this problem. Okay? Now we have 5 fellows on the track. Okay? Now this train is against speed. There is only one thing you can do. This is you, the red fellow. And there is one fat fellow. According to the story, if you push this fat fellow on the track, train will stop. Right? Simple. Okay? You got the story? Now tell me, how many of us will push the fat fellow? There's only one man bold enough. A few fellows want to push. Good. God bless you. God bless you. Normally, very few people will tend to push this fat fellow. You see, in the earlier scenario, we never bothered about killing this one fellow. Because we were not directly involved in killing him. The decision to kill him was very impersonal. Now here, it's in fact very surprising that at least some of you were bold enough, courageous murderers. Normally in a class you find 0 people or very few people saying would push this fellow. It's the same equation. It's exactly giving the life of one fellow to save more. In fact, in this case, if you see, you're actually saving 5 fellows when you push this one fellow down. But the brain will refuse to do that because there is something else happening. I want you to think about it. Okay, that's the trolley problem. Fat man. Okay, the reason is we are predictably and irrationally gifted. That's what it is. You're endowed with these kind of irrational thoughts. So why is it happening? There are two systems operating inside the brain, as I told you. The three levels of the brain interact because the reptilian brain can't do much. It's the emotional and the rational which is going to take decisions. So the rational brain is the cognitive thinking brain, and the emotional brain is the reward system. Okay? Now watch this video.
The amygdala is automatically turned on, so it starts pumping out these intense feelings of fear and anxiety. And what pilots train to do, when they train to do this in flight simulators, is how to keep a lid on those emotions, how to make sure those emotions don't get out of control so the fear doesn't turn into panic.
First strike, you lost all engines, you lost the thrust in the engine due to turning when you projected 1529 which engines? You lost thrust in both engines, he said. Got it.
What they practice is the ability to think through those feelings, and that requires the prefrontal cortex, this uniquely human brain area. And so in the case of Captain Soderbergh, what that allowed him to do was to take a deep breath, to realize his fear wasn't going to save him, that his fear wasn't useful. So instead what he had to do was look at his airspeed indicator, his altitude, look how far away the runway in Teterboro, New Jersey was, what it would like to return to LaGuardia, and realize that the best decision he could make at that moment was to land on the Hudson. So that was very much a rational decision. In many respects, the brain is like a Swiss Army knife. It's stuffed full of all these different tools, these different ways of thinking. We can rely on the amygdala, the nucleus accumbens, or the prefrontal cortex, and by using metacognition, really tailoring this thought process to the task at hand. So, in a sense, learning about how we think can allow us to think.
Then you can actually do it. Okay, so I'm going to give you another couple of puzzles. I want one or two volunteers who haven't spoken so far. So I'm going to pick up this gentleman here. Sit down, sir. Sit. Okay. So I'm going to give you a very simple question. You're all engineers, qualified engineers. It's a very simple mathematical question. I want you to react to this question and tell me the answer in split second. Okay? Bat and ball together cost $1.10. Bat costs $1 more than the ball. How much does the ball cost? 0.05, 0.10, 0.55, $1, $1.10. So, 0.10?
Yeah.
How many of you say 0.10? Raise your hands. Okay, simple mathematics, right? $1.10, $1. Any other answers? Some of you are thinking 0.05. Okay. Yeah, the real answer, the most common answer is 0.10. What has happened is your brain has thought in a certain way. It's trained to think in a certain way. 1 plus 110 should be that. But that when you do that, it actually becomes 1.20. The real answer is 1.05. I mean 0.05, as somebody rightly said. Okay, some of us get it right, most of us get it wrong, because there's nothing wrong in our brain. So don't go back feeling, oh my God, what's wrong with the brain? Nothing is wrong, you're only human. You're very human, and that's why we react that way. So don't feel bad about it. Okay? Now, second one. So 05 is the right answer. Now we're going to do a game on color. Okay, so the gentleman here, very silent sir. I'm going to ask you. Okay, be ready. Okay. Now the game is very simple. There will be colors shown on the screen. You have to tell me what color is on the screen, not the color written down. For example, okay, this is another one, good one. Okay, I'll give you this. The next one, I just want you to count the F's in the sentence. You got it? The number of F's in the sentence. Very simple. We all know English. Go ahead, continue. 30 seconds I'll give you to give you the right answer. Okay, 3, 4, 3, 4. Anybody else? 6. Somebody has counted it very seriously. 6. Where is 6? A lot of us will say, where are 6 F's? Okay, he must have specialized sense. Okay. Normally, we would see only 4. 1, 2, okay, 3 and 4. So the offs are not. That's why he saw 3. Because all the offs were off in his brain. Nothing wrong, it's natural, so don't feel bad about it. Okay, I don't want you guys to feel this. But that's what it is. Okay, most of us do that. Some of us knew there is a trick, that's why I'm carefully counting to ensure that I get it right. Congratulations for the one who got it right. Okay, this is going to be even simpler. Let's have one of the ladies now. Which lady is going to volunteer? I want a volunteer, lady volunteer. I've got 4 ladies in the room now. Okay, great. That's the spirit. Okay, as I said, the same game. Okay, so colors, you have to read out, you have to spell out the color. So for example, this is what? Okay, easy, go ahead, louder.
Green,
Okay.
blue, yellow, green.
I didn't ask you to say that. I didn't want you to say the colors.
Green, yellow, blue.
I because the brain is trained, it's primed to think in a certain manner, it is struggling. Continue.
Green.
See how much time it takes? You have to check your eyesight. It's not easy. It's not easy. Right, so the point is, you leave up the message. It's not easy. Because, again, the brain is trained to think in a certain way, and it refuses to look at the other alternatives. So, if we are able to train it to think otherwise, can it do certain remarkable things? The answer is yes, and by the time I finish, I'll give you the answer. Okay, now let's see this. Which table? Oh, engineers. Which table is it the table on the left side? We are asking which has the longest tabletop. Let's take hands. Table on the left, how many of us say? Some of us are saying a lot of tricks here. I don't want to be part of it. Table on the right, how many of us say? Some of us are saying that. No, nobody is saying table on the right. Neither, both are of equal length. How many of you say? Some of you are bold enough to say that. Good. Now let's, you see, this is where the eye and the brain make us like, I don't know what to say. Now look at this. Carefully look at it. Okay? It's exactly the same. In fact, the first time I was equally fooled. And then I took a ruler to actually measure it, to see whether it is really, it is true. What is happening is that our visual perceptions actually cloud our thinking. When our visual perception clouds our thinking, our decision making also gets clouded. So that's exactly what is happening. It's exactly the same. If you measure, even now our eyes refuse to believe it. Our brain still refuses to say, how can this be equal to this? I can challenge you, you take a ruler and check it, it will be exactly the same. Okay, so there are some interesting things happening inside our brain. So do we experience decision illusions just like these visual illusions? Okay?
But there's another problem. These men have discovered that sometimes your brain appears to conspire against you, and no amount of scribbling can solve that.
Watch carefully. Yeah?
Peter Johansson is forcing people to make decisions. It's a simple enough task for most people, and in fact, it isn't the real point of the experiment.
Why do you prefer that call? Higher cheekbones, slightly better hair, not much between them.
Peter Johansson and Lars Hall have devised an experiment which calls into question many of our assumptions about how we make most of our everyday decisions.
We're interested to see what kind of detail the representations behind people's decisions and what kind of insight they have about those decisions.
What did you choose this for?
It seems like it'd be someone with a very interesting personality.
This is all quite boring until you look at the experiment from a different perspective.
We added a twist, a card trick, so that sometimes they choose one face but end up with the other one.
Watch carefully. The volunteer chooses the card on the left, but Peter swaps the card and presents the photo that was seen on the right and was actually rejected.
It is a card trick, but it's a cheap card trick, based on something that the magicians just call black on black. So for each card, there's a hidden card behind it, which is actually the opposite one. When we slide the other card over, the black card is hidden. And then Petra just uses his arm to slide it down into his lap.
I mean, it's two parts that's interesting here. First, the fact that they don't notice when you switch the pictures.
it's interesting in itself, and it's quite surprising. And the second part is, of course, the verbal reports they give, that they actually motivate choices they didn't make.
80% of the people we tested had absolutely no idea that a switch had been made.
Again, this one just struck me. Interesting shot. Seeing some photographer like the way it's lit in the books.
So you got the message. They actually showed two, and they ask you to choose, and then they give you the other one. So the first mistake they do is they don't even realize that the card has been swapped. Even more interesting is they justify why they chose that. Right? That's what they were experimenting. It's called choice blindness. And 80% of the time, that's what happens. We think we're saying it right, we're deciding it right, we've perceived it right, but we haven't actually done it because choice blindness takes over. And then there are lots of experiments on this. This is Harvard and Tokyo. Okay, so blind experiments done. One was at Pepsi and Coke, and that's how Pepsi, again did something remarkable. Okay, it was the same Coke which was given, but then they made them realize that it was sweeter, and Pepsi made marketing mileage out of it. It was called the Cola Wars. So blind test where you can find out which one was right or which one is wrong. Relativity is what I told you. Okay, you have a pen to buy. Okay, and you have a choice. If you buy close to your house, it's $22. If you go a little far, it's $15. Which one will you choose? If you go close by, doesn't matter. Okay. This one, $4.40, $4.55. Okay, for the jacket. But if you go far, it's $4.48. Both are actually same, right? $7 is the difference. But the brain works differently when it has to choose something at a lower level and something at a higher price. Okay, so that's again relative time. The actual gain is $7 which will gain. But you will go many streets over to buy this $15 pen. But you will buy this here because the difference, you don't see it because you're relatively comparing the difference. And the difference is because of this. Why you will go there is because here it is 31% versus 2%. So the brain is tricked into thinking you get a better deal. Now here's another interesting one. Watch this. Okay, this is a graph on organ donations across different countries. And you have some countries where they've been extremely successful in organ donations, almost 100%, which is after dying, people have agreed to give their organs for research, for other people's usage and all that. And there are some countries where it is pathetically low. Question is, what is the reason behind this? Any thoughts?
Religion.
Okay, one of it could be religion. Interesting thought.
Cannot be reused.
Come again, sir?
Cannot be reused.
Cannot be reused. No, organs can be. Many organs of us can be used. So there are countries where you have 100% success rate. You see, these countries have a remarkable success rate. So our question is, what is the difference between these countries and these countries? What has happened? Quickly. Okay, one is population could be a reason, religion could be another reason.
These are not economically well.
These are economically well-to-do, but France, Sweden is supposed to be one of the most, let's say, wealthiest nations on the planet. Education, okay. Encouragement, marketing, promotion, interesting thoughts. None of them are right. It is a simple trick that they played on the brain, okay. So what they did here was, to all these fellows they said, if you want to donate your organ, please tick the box. Okay, listen carefully. So they told these fellows, you want to donate your organ, please tick this box. Nobody ticked. Here they said, if you don't want to donate the organ, please tick the box. And nobody ticked. And you see the response rate. Okay. So they achieve it by making it the default choice. Organ donation is default. If you don't want it, you have to tick, then nobody bothered. 100% success. This is called bounded rationality, the default choice. Right. So that's where you get the yes to organ donation. Here's another one. Anchor. We choose decisions based on a comparison point. So I'll skip all this stuff and go on straight to the experiment. This is Economist, okay? Economist magazine. So they have two options. Option one, you take the hard copy option, okay? You pay $59. You take the hard copy and print option, you pay $125. Which one will you take? Which one will you take? 59, simple logic, okay? 59 I'm happy, aramse, I read the magazine, that's enough for me. All the issues I get, that's fine. Economists did a slight tweak to that proposal. They said, okay, so what? So we found a lot of people are saying, now, Economist subscription is 59, okay, which is web access. Economist print subscription is 125. Print and web subscription is also 125. Now 125. That's right. That's exactly right. That's how they did. You see, the brain played a trick on us. It never realized that actually a big double. In the initial phase, it was $60. Now we are happily willing to pay, and you're thinking it's a good deal. He also, pride us as a good deal, and that's exactly what happened. So in the first case, the second case, it was 84%. Okay, who said we go for this, and only 16%. But when you had only one choice, look at the difference. It was 68% on the first one, which is exactly what we saw, and 32%. The reason is we make decisions based on anchoring. The nearest comparison will anchor that and anchor our decision. There are some absolutely crazy things they have done. Okay, they will ask you your social security number. Let's say your Emirates ID number, and they'll ask you to memorize the last two. They'll ask you to remember the last two digits of the Emirates ID. This is exactly how they did it in the US. And then after that, after 100 people have memorized their own last two digits, they will ask how many countries. I don't have time, others will play that experiment. They will ask how many countries are there in Africa. You know how you would decide that? You would decide that based on the last two numbers of your ID. I'm serious. I'm not joking. This is exactly what, these are the kind of irrational decisions we make based on its anchoring. We've anchored into the nearest point. Just because it was the last number that we remembered, we will anchor all our decisions based on that. Here's another one. Okay. The same thing in graphical pictures. The decoy was, now it's an expensive griller. $5,900. It is expensive. Now, slightly less expensive than it was 6 to 9. Now listen, lowest price, shipping is free, I made all these things, now you go for it. Now it makes it even more attractive. The other one is 12,500. Wow, this is a deal, it's a steal now. You have to go and buy it, it's a sale. It's going on. Okay. So these are all anchoring decisions. Okay. So it shows excessive influence of nearby comparisons. How can we change it? So here's the solution. Instead of falling for it, you can change your nearby comparisons by changing your environment. You be consciously aware that you could be tricked into it. So the next time when a decision comes, don't fall for the anchor. Don't just compare what is nearby to you. Look at the broader picture. Look at another environment and see what it means. Be intentional about choosing comparisons. You can't just take the nearest one, which is the easiest for the brain to take. Then, overconfidence. Many times when we make our decisions, it's based on overconfidence. Why do you think the bubble burst in the real estate market in Dubai? Overconfidence. Nothing can go wrong. It will happen in the United States, it will happen in Wall Street, it won't happen in Dubai. Overconfidence. And it can create. Anchoring, we saw that. Confirmation bias. We are looking for information that will confirm our belief. So we are always looking for it. That's an Nissan Altima story I told. Confirmation bias. We're looking for information which will confirm. Availability bias. Whatever is there, information based on which we take the decision. Representative bias. We are thinking that this incident will happen again. Then escalation of commitment. Already we are committed into it. Now what do? We can't go back. Happens very often in projects. Randomness. Some random thing happened, but we will try to make meaning out of it. Try to give all kinds of explanations. And then hindsight bias. I knew it will happen. Then why didn't you do anything about it? I knew all the time it will happen. And then we will still do it. So, how can we make better decisions? Another quick video and then we wind up. Sorry.
The book Sway asks why perfectly rational people make irrational decisions. Author Ori Bratman explains the psychological forces that skew our judgment and decision making.
Why is it so difficult to sell a plummeting stock or end a doomed relationship? Why would someone throw away years of experience and knowledge out the window in a split second? Why would anyone dismiss the truth, even when all the facts are laid out right in front of them. Questions like these have fascinated my brother Ram and me since childhood. Ultimately, they led us to conduct extensive research in the fields of psychology, behavioral economics, and organizational behavior. What we discovered baffled us. Here are some of our findings. On a foggy afternoon, on March 27, 1977, on the island of Tenerife, Captain Jacob Van Zanten, the head of KLM's safety program, was at the helm of a 747. His flight was grounded because of a terrorist threat. As one delay gave way to another, the captain became increasingly concerned about facing a mandated rest period, which would mean the crew and passengers would be stuck at the airport overnight. It was then that Van Zanten did the unthinkable. He pulled the throttle of the 747 and started taking off without tower clearance. This was by far the most irrational decision of his life, a decision that cost the lives of 584 people, the deadliest aeronautical disaster in history. What was going on in the captain's mind? It comes down to something called loss aversion. When we're in situations where we're faced with the prospect of a loss, we overreact, ironically, oftentimes creating bigger losses. In short, Van felt there was so much at stake that he could not afford to lose, and in the process, lost everything. Loss aversion often goes hand in hand with another trait we call commitment. Commitment is the act of continuing on the course, whether it's working or not, simply because so much time, money, and effort is already invested. Joshua Bell, one of the world's most accomplished and best-known musicians, packs performance halls worldwide. But when he played his $3.5 million Stradivarius in jeans and a baseball cap in the subway during the morning rush hour in Washington, D.C., barely anyone noticed. On the other side of the world, a little-known anthropologist embarked on a journey that led him to discover a new hominid species called Homo florensis, otherwise known as the Hobbit. The Hobbit lived in the tropical island of Java just 13,000 years ago and was about half the size of a modern human. But even though there was substantive scientific data to bolster the findings, the scientific community dismissed the Hobbit as a mystery human. In both cases, Bell and the anthropologists were discounted because of what we call value attribution. When we attribute a certain value to a person or thing, it dramatically alters our perception to subsequent information. Joshua Bell looked like a street performer, and even though he didn't sound like a mediocre violin player, people were biased by what they saw rather than what they heard. In a landmark psychology experiment conducted by Solomon Ash, a group of participants were asked to indicate which of the 3 lines presented matched the 4th line. Unbeknownst to the only 2 participants, the other participants were actors. The actors all purposefully gave the wrong answer. Surprisingly, time and again, when it came to their turn, the real participants doubted their own perception and went along with the group. Indeed, 75% of the participants joined in giving the wrong answer. That's the power of group dynamics. But what's truly interesting is what happens when you add a voice consent to the mix. In a variation of the study, Ash introduced a new actor to the group. This time, it was a person who either gave the right answer or an answer that was different than the other actors. In almost all cases, when the dissenter spoke up, the real subject flew in the face of the group and gave the right answer. You see this type of group dynamics anywhere from corporations to the Supreme Court. A dissenting voice is essential for healthy group dynamics. Organizations tend to get rid of blockers or dissenters because it can be seen as difficult or argumentative. They shouldn't. These people play an important role in good decision making. Any lifeguard will tell you that if you're caught in a riptide pulling you out to sea, you shouldn't swim with the current or against it. You should swim across it until you're out of the stream. Similarly, when it comes to psychological undercurrents, the best way to counter them isn't necessarily to follow your own instincts. That's what makes these invisible forces so challenging. So what steps can you take to avoid the influences of sways? With fear of loss as an example, having a long-term plan helps you see that the possible loss is only a small misstep in the larger scheme of things. For people like the subway riders who ignore Joshua Bell, the best strategy to tackle value attribution is to observe things for what they are, not just what they appear to be. You have to accept that your initial impression may have been wrong. In a group situation, the presence of a blocker makes decision-making more rational. The dissenter, of course, may be as wrong as anyone else in the group, but they add perspective. These are just some of the stories and sways in our book. I hope you...
Okay, so you saw that very, very critical thing, okay? How these sways can change us. Loss aversions, commitments, value attributions, and group dynamics. But the simple way by which you could address them, okay? One is having long-term plans. When you're looking at loss aversion, when you're looking at value attribution, that's exactly what we did in the first instance, that perceptual picture that we had. We look at what it is rather than what it should be, okay, which is where we made the mistake. And the third thing, very powerful in groups, because many times you make wrong decisions because the pressure of the group dynamics. And you saw that experiment that Solomon Asch did. It was about having those group of people. And when you add one person who is against that decision, along with this person, then the decision dynamics keep changing. So rather than throw out the no men as we call them, the naysayers, it's better to have one person who can add a new perspective to the decision-making process. He may not be right, but he'll add perspective to the decision-making process. So these are some of those interesting thoughts. Quickly, how to improve our decision-making, because we've been speaking about the flip side of human decision-making, but there is a nice way of looking at it. Try to look at the situation, try to analyze every situation, don't jump to conclusions. Now that you know there is an emotional part that will very often take over, analyze this situation and then adjust your style. Understand there are a number of biases that we could fall into, which we saw through those experiments. Try to limit their impact. We may not be able to completely eliminate, but once we are aware of them, we can minimize those biases. Confirmation bias, we saw that, right? Then combine rational analysis with intuition. So you've got all the facts and figures, keep them with you. Also look at your gut instinct. What does the emotion tell you? Because as we saw, there is a two-way process of both rational and emotion. Don't assume that your specific style is appropriate to every situation. So involve other people, get other people to also get involved. Enhance your creativity by looking for novel solutions. Here's a very important thought. Normally what we do is we are obsessed with our own specialties. So if you're civil engineers, if you're quantitative surveyors, we want to enhance our skills in that particular area, great idea. But beyond that, you should start looking at fields which are completely opposite your field. And believe me, when you start developing that, you start getting new perspectives, new thoughts, new ideas, because they're completely out of the common frame of thinking. So that's another way of looking at it, by looking at problems in new ways. Focus on goals. So rather than just getting, falling for that decision, look at what is the final outcome, what is the final objective. And look for information that disconfirms belief. Not confirms beliefs, but disconfirms beliefs. Okay. And don't try to create meaning out of random events. They are random, they are just random. And then increase your options. So when you have multiple options, when you have different people, I gave you the example in the recruitment scenario, when you have different people, when you have multiple levels, the level of decision making or the quality of decision making becomes much better. Some final ideas, one of it is mental training. So one of the ways in which you can keep your brain fit is by keeping it agile and exercising it regularly. Many of us would do physical exercises, which is also good for brain training, but we can also train ourselves in brain itself. One of us is concentration exercises, puzzles that we can do, Sudokus, crossword, any which way by which we can keep our brains active. And it not only helps you to keep your brain active, it also keeps you from aging faster. It helps you to remain young, both physically, mentally, and emotionally. So mental training, these are the Navy SEALs, who are supposedly the most elite commando force in the world, who actually killed Osama bin Laden. These were the guys. But this is the kind of training they do, under rising tides and sea. That's where they condition their brain to do it. Initially, of course, it's tough. Many of us who go on treadmills and exercises know it. Initially, it is difficult, but 21 days, if we continue to do it, it becomes a habit. So Navy SEALs, we gave you the example. And I love this statement by Carl Lewis. Carl Lewis said that scientists have proven that it's impossible to long jump 30 feet. Okay, so already proven. But I don't listen to that kind of talk. Okay? Thoughts like that have a way of sinking into your feet. So actually he rubbishes all that, and actually he was the first jumper to clear the 30 feet mark. Okay? Power visualization. This is crazy, but you have to believe it because this is actually in a scientific journey. Okay? So you had a group of people, okay? So you had a group of people who were pulling on a string. Okay, so they had a string, they were pulling on a string. You had another group that was visualizing pulling a string. So they were actually visualizing pulling, they didn't have a string, but they were imagining, they were visualizing. Another group was doing nothing. Okay, so you have three groups. One pulling the string, one imagining or visualizing they were pulling the string. Look at the results. So the guys who actually pulled the string, there was 30% increase in muscle strength, which is natural. You pull, you have to get it now. But look at this, the fellows who visualized also got 22%. Okay, so that's the placebo effect. So visualizing. So when you want to do something, when you want to improve yourself, when you want to become better, start visualizing. Because the brain can play tricks on our actions. The opposite is equally true. If you think you can't do it, you can't do it. But you got to visualize the power of belief, which will actually work for us. Okay, so why lift a finger? Remain just like that. The placebo effect I've already discussed. I'm going to skip that quickly. Okay, so placebo and pygmalion we discussed. Start believing you can do it, you can do remarkable stuff. Last final thoughts. Okay. Some specialized data, this is very important. This is how the system works, how we actually track how the brain functions. Okay. Memory can be increased by continuously concentrating on various pictures and then memorizing them as photographic memory. And even memory loss due to various bad habits can be recouped by continuous practice, continuous focus, concentration. Here's another classic example of memory growth. This was an experiment conducted in London among London cab drivers. London cab drivers are probably some of the smartest people on planet Earth, especially when it comes to navigating the streets and alleys of London. It's one of the most difficult, in fact, the most difficult alleyways and streetways in the world. So they're given enormous amount of training, continuous training to actually master the alleyways have made these guys remarkable. In 2002, there was an experiment done by a few researchers from London University on London cab drivers. They actually measured their heads, their brains. And there was one area in the brain called the hippocampus. And the hippocampus is where you have memory stored. And for the London cab drivers, the hippocampus areas were larger than the average human being. Because they were continuously focusing on developing the memory, that particular area became larger and larger and larger. So the lesson for us is that whatever you want to excel in, if you start practicing it continuously, that particular area becomes competent, and which means if one area can be competent, any number of areas can be competent. So that's the lesson. Mindfulness is being aware of. How many of us understand the power of silence, meditation, prayer? Okay? In our hustle and bustle of a busy routine, we forget that silence can do magic for us, both for our brains and for our bodies. So if you can take time off, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, half an hour, to do virtually nothing, emptying your thoughts and just enjoying the moment, being in the presence of the Almighty, is the mindfulness exercise that you do. And last but not the least, we have been trained, we have been told that our brains can't change. Okay? I'm going to ask you a last final quiz question. What percentage of our brain do we actually use? 5%, 1%, 30%, somebody is liberal. Any more? Even if you put all that together, we will not come at the right answer. Current neuroscience research tells us that in order for us to see, hear, breathe and live, we need to use minimum 95% to 100%. So you will question me and say, is my science teacher wrong? Absolutely wrong. She always told us the wrong things, not always by choice, but that's what she was taught. Today brain science tells us that 100%. In fact, each one of us possesses one of the most remarkable organs in this beautiful creation. God has given us such a beautiful organ which is more powerful than the most powerful human computer. The most powerful human computer has 600 billion network connections. And each one of us inside our black or brown boxes has an instrument called the human brain, which weighs about 3/4 kilos, is an organ that has 1.2 trillion neural connections. Friends, the message is very simple, that each one of us have been destined for greatness. And if you know how to use it, if you know how to train your brain, if you know how to exercise and practice that, we can all be much better in terms of decisions, in terms of our abilities to do remarkable stuff. So this is the ability of the brain to change, the neuroplasticity or the science of the ability to change. Because every time you have a thought, there is something happening in your brain. It is putting paths, it is putting neural pathways. Every right decision, every right thought, again there is a neural path. Every wrong thought, again there is a neural path. So you decide what your thoughts are. And then we have the potential to grow by transforming our mind. And this guy who won a Nobel Prize said thoughts can actually change our brain structures, which is why the scriptures were always saying, think good thoughts, think love, think compassion, think gratitude. Because good thoughts lead to good healthy brains, good healthy lives. And there's a beautiful verse in the scriptures which says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so he is. So with these few words, let me wish you all the very best, and we'll finish with this final video, which is wishing you the best of success. Okay, good luck and God bless you. I want to apologize for stepping over my time, but I had to deliver what I have to deliver, and I had no choice. So thank you very much for patiently sitting back, and I wish you all the very best.
We had many speakers, but I think Professor has been one of the most motivating speakers you would ever had. I think now we know that before you make any decision, pause and take your decision in the morning, and most critical decision you take after one night's sleep. Thank you very much as a courtesy being our speaker on today. I invite Ravindra to